recording just for the sake of sorting. I'm here with Walt. We're going to have a lovely chat. I hope you learn a lot from... I always like to... shoot.
That's okay.
That's why I got this big case on it.
That's right. They could take a bit of roughness.
Yeah, seriously. Ooh, I always like to say what I'm doing at the beginning of my recordings, otherwise they'll get all mixed up.
Okay.
No clue what I'm dealing with afterwards. So first, I'd like to hear a bit about your personal story. You know, where you come from, how you ended up here, and
Okay.
and all that.
When I was in high school, when you get into grade 12 and 13, you have to visit a consultant, a career consultant.
Oh yeah.
And her job, who was a woman, was mainly to figure out what university you wanted to go to and what degrees.
Right.
I said, I don't want to go to university,
Yeah.
which absolutely horrified her. And she said, well, what do you want to do? I said, oh, I'm looking for a job that gives me a lot of freedom, that I can work for 6 months, earn enough money, that for 6 months I can do what I want. I can paint,
Yeah.
I can write, I can read. And so I've always figured it out that I'm going to Hillsbury School of Mines and I'm going to work in the bush, see how that goes.
And so where are you from originally?
Southern Ontario,
Right. Whereabouts?
near London. It was Middlesex
Oh,
County.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It's become part of London now, but
Yeah.
as a kid who was drilled into us, we are not city kids, we are country
Of course.
kids.
Of course.
So, and if you had any problems, I went to the Middlesex Public School. When I went to high school in London, I had to get a paper signed because the county has to pay the city for the number of students that are in.
I see.
And yeah, so it was drilled into you. You're a county kid. You're not a city kid.
Of course. And so you went to school of mines?
Hillsbury School of Mines.
Yeah.
I liked it. I started working in the bush, and they were paying me to go camping, to go hiking, to fly around in planes and helicopters, to visit parts of this country no one else gets to.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, wow.
And the first time I was out on the Barrens doing a traverse by myself, I was 20, and plane drops you off. You're going to spend 6 to 8 hours doing a traverse, then the plane comes and picks you up. So you're completely on your own.
Yeah, wow.
But it was like walking through a textbook of glacial geology.
Yeah.
I said, oh, wow, that's what an esker is.
Right.
That's what so I really liked it.
Yeah.
So that's got me into it. I worked for a few years for contract and consulting companies, and you get a lot of experience that way. So then I opened my own
Right.
one-person contract and consulting.
When'd you first come up north?
I was first in the territories in 1969,
Okay.
the same year I graduated from Hillsbury,
Right.
and we were doing some reconnaissance work in the territories. Got to know Yellowknife, and then a fellow from Yellowknife offered me a job for the next summer to work out in the Barrens, helping to run a camp and do the blasting for them.
Oh yeah, you did Boston. What company was that?
It was a little one called Herschel and Associates.
Okay.
They were just a junior mining company that had a property, wanted a bunch of work done on it.
Right. Are most in those days were most of the exploration companies smaller?
Yeah.
How many people about would be working for them, you think?
Well, head office, there'd be 3 or 4.
Right.
Okay. Then in the summer, they'd hire crews,
Oh, right.
people like myself and other people, geologists, to do the field work for them.
Right.
So the companies are very small. There are only 2 or 3 people. The head office, and then they'd hire people, contracted
It's
consulting
mostly
companies.
mostly contractors.
Yep.
In the summers.
Yep.
And how many contractors would they have about? Or at least the first one, Herschel.
One contractor would handle a program,
Oh, okay.
and supply the labor and
Right.
everything else. And there's a pool of prospectors and bushworkers and
Oh,
people
yeah.
who knew the business that you could hire.
Right. I see.
And so you'd work on a project for a year and then
Mm.
on to something else the next year, or you get hired back, depending how long the project went.
Right. And most people like people just everybody knows everybody kind of thing
Yep.
in town and
Yeah, and you go to the PDAC, anybody looking for work would show
right.
up and
Right. I see.
say, hey, I know what I'm doing.
Right. I see. Did that that dynamic sort of change over time?
Yep,
Oh yeah.
yep. Uh, it, it worked well for a number of years, and then the uranium rush started.
Sorry, the what?
The uranium rush.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And when it started, there was a bunch of big multinational companies and oil and gas companies working. And they had a different philosophy and pumped in a lot more money than a normal exploration
Mm-hmm.
program would.
So, sorry, their exploration, they would have like a wing of the big company that would do exploration?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, I see. I see.
yep. And so all of a sudden you were working for U.S. Steel, you were
Right.
working for Shell Can, you were working for an enormous company. Uh, and their philosophy and the way they did things was completely different.
Mm. Could you describe how different?
Well, exploration, the idea is to go out and find as much interesting things as you can.
Mm-hmm.
For some of the companies, success was all that mattered. So you walk in and you say, oh, hey, I found an interesting sulfide showing. We're not looking for sulfides, we're looking for uranium. If it ain't uranium, don't bother with it. They're very narrow focused, and
Right, right.
which is not the way a junior company works. They're looking for everything.
I see.
They may have a focus on a property for gold, but if you find them base metals, they're going to be happy. With the bigger companies, it's got to be what they're looking for. So it's this very narrow.
Mm.
They got blinders on.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so, in the days of the smaller exploration companies, how would they mostly make their money? Would they, lay claim and then try to sell it to a bigger one?
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
What a prospector usually finds properties, or one person has an idea.
Yeah.
They sell the idea to junior company or start a junior company.
Oh, I
And
see.
then the junior company develops it to a certain stage, and then they sell it to a bigger company.
Mm.
And the bigger company sells it to an even bigger company.
Mm.
It's a stepping up of things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because an individual prospector, you may have a few $1,000s to
Yeah.
spend. A junior company may have $100,000 to spend. To develop a mine is going to cost you $60 million.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so it's
So
a step ladder on the way up. But if you don't have the bottom, the grassroots, you have nothing to feed into the system.
for sure. And so the junior companies generally, like the ones that the prospectors would sell to or start, generally wouldn't develop it to the stage of production. You don't think?
It wouldn't.
Develop to the stage to like the production stage.
No, God no.
Oh no.
That would be back in the 30s and 40s and 50s.
Right.
In the 60s and 70s, no, it costs too much.
Yeah.
Too many rules and regulations.
Yeah.
Things just work too slowly.
Okay. Interesting. And so sorry. And back to when uranium. And so it was mostly what were the kind of minerals folks were looking for in when they started?
Well, a prospector, you're looking for any minerals
Right.
that have a value.
Right.
And so when I go and look at a property, it may be a gold property, so gold is the number one thing I'm looking for, but I'm looking for anything I can find
Mm.
of interest.
I see. I see. How much to start your own little in those days? Prospecting outfit. How much investment would that cost generally?
To start your own little prospecting thing,
Yeah.
a couple $1,000s.
$1,000, yeah.
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 It's nothing because you get the contracts, you make money, and
Right.
how much stuff do you need and what. I kept it down so I was a one-person operation.
Right.
Some of the bigger contracting consulting companies might have 10, 20 people working for them, and they have the tents and the boats and the canoes and all that stuff.
For sure.
I had enough for me in a small camp, but
Yeah.
the bigger ones, I'll look after the project for you or I'll work for you,
Right.
but you're footing the bills.
Yeah. For sure. Okay, so let's rewind a bit. Back to the uranium rush era. What was the first big company you started working for, or did you stay as a
Well,
small
I
business?
got hired on by a company that was doing work for U.S. Steel
Okay, yeah.
under Essex Minerals, it was
Right.
called. So I did work for them. I worked for Pan Ocean for one summer,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I didn't like it too much because the camps were too big and the people were too inexperienced.
Right.
They weren't bush workers; they were summer students.
Yeah.
Most of them didn't have a
That's
clue what they were doing. You know, so you had to train them and then
Oh
get,
yeah.
you know,
That's
my
the switch.
computer is talking to me. I hate that.
So how would you get out into the bush generally when you first?
Uh, by boat, by
Yeah.
plane, by helicopter. You'd usually go out and you'd set up some sort of camp where you'd work out of. And if you're doing a summer program, you'd go out and, which is what I did also in March or April, and you'd build the camp,
Right.
get it ready for the influx of summer people,
Right.
and then go from there.
I see. And once you say you're a prospect and you find minerals of value, um, how do you how would you solicit investment or like a bigger partner to come in? How would you find them generally?
As a prospector, what you prospect the ground and you make some maps and take a bunch of samples,
Yeah.
which you can afford. Then you do up a little report, and then you go to places like the PDAC or the Western Roundup,
Mm.
or people you know in the business, and you start flogging it around.
Right.
See if anybody's interested. If they're interested, they'll option it from you.
Right.
And it used to be quite easy to do that. It's very difficult now because there are not that many juniors,
Mm.
and the business has changed a lot.
I see. I see. Would you want to go back to the from the uranium era?
Mm-hmm.
How your involvement with the industry progressed from there?
Uh, I optioned a few properties. I had enough money to make a living, and I'd do little jobs if they came up. But if I didn't like the job, I just
Yeah.
said, no, I'm not. I'm getting to the age I don't want to spend 4 months in the bush
Yeah.
straight.
Yeah. No kidding.
So I'll go out and do a job for you for a week or two. But
Right.
yeah,
Right. I see. And so how has the business changed in general since then?
there's very most of the prospectors are long in the tooth and gray in the beard. They're up there. There's not many people starting out with that because this is the other thing is that the guys in charge of camps when I started was usually the most experienced person,
Mm.
the most knowledgeable.
Mm.
Then it became the person with the biggest PhD
Yeah. Yeah.
who didn't know how to run camps or what they were doing. Um, so, and prospectors and just ordinary geologists were sort of moved down the scale, and the
Mm.
bureaucrats were moved up.
Oh man.
So it made for a lot of the guys didn't like it. They didn't like
Yeah. No
having
kidding.
a boss who had no idea what he was doing.
Yeah. No kidding.
So it created a sort of rift there. And
Oh, I see.
yeah,
And what sort of years would that have been? That's
it
what
would have
changed.
been in the 80s and 90s. It
Right.
started
Right. I see.
becoming very, if I walk into an office and they say, well, what's your experience? I can give them my experience. They say, no, no, what's your academic experience?
Right.
Well, I graduated at Hillbury School of Mines. No, no, we only want university graduates.
Right. Yeah.
That's my dog, the cat.
Oh, he wants back in.
What's back in? So the business has changed that way, and most businesses have.
And why do you think that is?
bureaucracies and everything else, changed the rules, and it favors that approach, the
Right.
hierarchy of the thing. The rules up here used to say that a prospector or a reasonably qualified individual could write a report. Okay. Then, now it's if I spend more than $10,000, I have to get a PNG or PGO to write the report. So I'm hiring someone who knows less than I do and paying them more than I ever made a day to, but that's the way they get in there, and they change the rules and the regulations and the permits and everything else to favor big bureaucracies.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
And unfortunately, it's not just in mining that this has happened. It's happened in all the professions and all the trades.
Right.
You know, that something's wrong with your furnace or your thing. You get the most experienced oil burner mechanic you could find to do it. But then he has to get an engineer who doesn't know the furnace to certify it. It's
that's pretty crazy.
It's a silly system we've set up.
Yeah, no kidding.
And if you try to fight it, you're fighting a group with a whole bunch of money and power and influence who dictate it.
Yeah, and I just think like there is no university in the Northwest Territories, right?
Nope.
Yeah, so there you go. Already you're,
Yep.
totally dependent on the South. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. And the work I did, there was never unions. We
Yeah.
just did the work and everything else. But in some of the bigger camps, there are unions now, which is okay. It's
In exploration.
not in exploration so much, but in the mines.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, most of the mines have some sort of union now.
Yeah. Well, it seems looking over the numbers, it's really uncommon for them to be unionized today. But during the from the 40s all the way till the 70s, it was most of them were unionized. It seemed, just from what I've looked at so far. But it's really gone downhill lately. And I'm wondering if you have any insight onto why that is. Why none of them are unionized these days.
Why none of them are?
Yeah.
Well, I know from a company's point of view, they don't like the unions.
Oh, company's never gonna like the union. Yeah, of course.
And so they can afford not to have a union.
I see.
And to stomp out anybody who tries to organize.
I see. Yeah. They do have a lot of power. What about the change in? Because it seemed like, just from looking at, I've only looked at maps and stuff, so I don't know actually what someone who's really been up here for a long time would think about this. But it seems like it used to be that a lot of the mines were closer to roads or closer to towns. But nowadays they're all way out and remote. Do you think that's generally true?
Well, partly.
Yeah.
We had Discovery Mines, which was 60 miles north of here. Yeah. We had little mines out in the bush. But a bigger mine, if you don't have a road to it, or you can't put in a winter road to service it, they're just too expensive. When we were first starting looking up here, if you got outside of a certain radius of Yellowknife or existing infrastructure, you had to find a mine that was 2, 3, 5, 10 times bigger than a mine close to a road to make it pay.
Right.
And it's only when we started putting in winter roads that the diamond mines and that became feasible. We can haul the stuff up in the wintertime. Before that, when Yellowknife was first opened, the stuff used to get trucked up to Hay River, and then Hay River came across the lake. until the road was into Yellowknife.
Right.
They managed to open the mines here because they were gold mines
Of
and
course,
they were
yeah.
pretty rich. But
Yeah.
it's an economic thing.
Yeah.
One of the biggest iron ore deposits in North America is sitting in the Mackenzie Mountains on the border between the Yukon and the Northwest Territories.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the friggin' mountains.
Yeah.
So it'll never be developed until they can figure out a way to access it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
You know?
Yeah. That does seem like a pretty it seems like when mines shut down, especially, it's not because there's no more ore or anything. It's just the ore that's there is no longer economic.
Yeah.
Either because the price changes or because.
And with a mine, the deeper you go, the more it's going to cost you
Yeah.
to
Exactly.
process it.
Exactly.
So, but ore is by definition mineable.
Right.
But sub-ore, stuff that is not ore, uh, if the prices change, if the circumstances change,
Mm.
then you can reopen the mine.
Yeah.
So, and I know there's a lot of people who don't like mining, but from a practical point of view, a country and a territory needs something to drive their economic engine.
Of course.
And if it isn't resources, what have you got up here?
Yeah.
You know, so Canada has always been a resource-rich country,
Of course.
and we've lived off of our resources. And then the people in the city say, no, we don't want that. Well, if you don't want that, you're going to lose your city.
Yeah.
You know,
and your car and your laptop.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we need something to drive the engine of a country, and it's either high tech or it's
Even high tech, like you need rare earth minerals. You need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And population wise, we can't compete with the number of people China can put on a problem.
Oh, of course.
You know, so
Of course.
no, I love exploration. Mines are okay, but I wouldn't want to live.
Yeah. Yeah. So you never worked on a mine.
I worked for them.
Right.
And I've been underground and all that sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah,
But I don't like working underground.
yeah.
I like nature. I like being
Yeah.
out and seeing the outdoors. That's why I got into exploration.
Yeah. Of course. When I'm really interested in like the change in technology throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
When did they start? First off, when did they start using winter roads?
Okay, there's John Dennison's Ice Road. It's
Okay.
a book you can find. He was one of the first ones who got into building ice roads. Before they had cat trains, where you had a caterpillar with buildings behind it,
Oh, okay. Okay.
little shacks and that.
Right.
We've got out at our display out by Giant, we've got some cats, and those move. You can walk as fast as a cat
Yeah.
chugs along.
Yeah.
It would take them a couple of weeks to get from Hay River to Yellowknife.
Oh my God.
On a
Going what, over the lake or?
Yep,
Oh my
with the
gosh.
caterpillar, and you need lots of ice. And John Dennison got the idea and said, well, why can't we plow it and make a road out of it?
Yeah.
Why do we need this big heavy cat and the thing? So he started working on ice roads. They went to Discovery Mines, Gordon Lake, Yellowknife.
And sorry, what era would this have been?
That would have been in the mid-70s.
In '70s. Okay.
And so he proved and showed that it was easier to build a road and maintain the ice road than to send a cat train across,
Yeah. Wow.
and a lot faster.
Yeah. No kidding.
And since then, the technology's improved. The ice roads are, before they started out just being like an ordinary road. Now they're, 100 feet wide, and
Yeah.
they run up and they flood the ice, and
Yeah.
they do all sorts of things. But John Dennison was the one who, well, I knew him in town here. He got this thing going of, we can do this with a snowplow,
Right.
a crew, a bombardier, put in a road, and then we can drive transport trucks.
Right.
and we can get God knows how many loads up there where a cat train is only halfway up there.
Yeah.
We're already on our fifth load.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Wow. And so ice roads. It seems like ice roads are pretty critical for transporting
Mm-hmm.
supplies and then bringing stuff back in.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do that as regularly as you need to keep a supply of labor going in.
Yeah.
So it
That's why it's fly in, fly out.
exactly yeah. So it's
The-
an ask.
to
When
build-
when
to-
did that sort of start?
Well, all the isolated mines are fly in, fly out to start with. Terra mine, Discovery mine, they were
Right.
all fly in, fly out.
Even back in the day.
Until they started getting the cat trains
Right.
and haul the heavy equipment in. But it's so expensive to put a cat train in that once they got the mine up and running, it was supplied by aircraft.
Right.
And then they put in the ice roads, and
Right.
that was an easier way to get stockpile supplies.
Yeah, I see. And so when did the fly in fly out? When was that first become common? The supply mine.
Okay, well, when Yellowknife was first discovered, the bigger companies had their own air fleets.
Right.
Cominco had its own fleet
Oh,
of
really?
aircraft. And so most of the bigger mines had their own aircraft arm to fly stuff.
Right.
The bush pilots did the other stuff, but they charged charter flights.
Yeah, of course.
Uh,
So they would bush pilots would do like exploration.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I
That's,
see.
and the bigger companies, like if they had a mine, the Ward Air got started because it was supplying Discovery Mine.
Right.
Um, the one thing I'd like to see is dirigibles.
What is that?
Helium-filled dirigibles. That it would be a fast way to get stuff out to the communities.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Wow, has that been used before?
They use them for certain things, but they haven't gotten around to using them to supply the communities and stuff up here.
Right.
Because the winds are strong, but you do get calm days.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
Totally. Wow.
it would be a way of getting the stuff in without having to have a road.
Right.
As one of the problems with all these, any infrastructure, they build it, but you got to maintain it,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to rebuild it every so many years. So it's an expensive proposition having a road. If we could get around without having roads, it would be a big saving.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I see. So what year sort of would was what, like Discovery, for instance? Like I have it written down somewhere, but you said that was they used fly in fly out for that one.
For the start, yeah.
For the start of it.
And
Okay.
then
They switched to
well, they brought some of the equipment in by cat train, but you
Right.
could only do that in late winter when the ice is thick enough.
yeah, of course.
So the heavy stuff, the cat train it in. But then when Denison got the ice roads going, they said, okay, well, we'll just put an ice road in there and we'll use transport
Yeah,
trucks.
I see.
Yeah.
So they were flying in supplies too, not
Yep.
just labor.
Yep.
Oh wow.
They had their own airstrip.
Right.
They had to deal with Max Ward for Ward Air, and that's what supplied their. But Discovery was a very rich mine. They ore was running about an ounce per ton,
Oh wow.
which is 5 times what
Yeah.
the mines in Yellowknife are running. So they had a rich little deposit they could work on out there, and you only have to fly out the gold. You
Right.
don't have to fly out
Yeah,
the,
I know. Oh, I see. That's interesting. In general, do you think there's been like the trend of mines being close to like I'm thinking like over the years in your experience, have the mines gotten further away from the towns or have they gotten closer? The big producers. I
the
mean.
big producers. The mines where you find it. So when they found the diamonds, that's where they got to
Yeah.
build the mine. And winter roads were well known then.
Right.
And so they figured out a way to do it. And diamonds are the same as gold.
Right.
You're what you fly out is a little box of
Yeah,
diamonds.
exactly.
It's not lead zinc. It's not iron ore.
Yeah, exactly.
So certain mines, if they're rich enough and
Mm,
they can afford to be anywhere.
right.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah. But after all these years of the diamond mines, they're finally talking about building a road up to Bathurst Inlet,
Mm,
which they should have bought when they found the diamond mines.
yeah. I was talking to a guy the other day about that.
Yeah,
Like a even a permanent road, not just a
yeah.
nice road. Yeah, yeah,
And that's the case where the government, with their legislations and everything, is so out of touch with reality that
yeah.
they,
Totally.
oh, we got two big diamond mines going. Let's put in a road. We can afford it. It'll pay for itself. Or
Yeah.
oh, no, let's talk about it.
Oh man. Yeah, that was what, like early 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And now that the mines are talking about shutting down, they're saying, "Oh my God, what are we going to do? We need a road up there to
Oh my
develop the
gosh.
smaller mines that can't afford the way things are now."
Right.
So now they're talking about building the road.
Yeah. Oh, what a waste. Um, you mentioned during the uranium rush there was a change, sort of from like big company from small exploration outfits that would sell to small producers and they go up the chain to like the big companies having branches that do exploration.
Yes.
Did that continue throughout the years or has it changed back to what it was before?
No, it's that's the way it is, and
Yeah.
it's harder for junior companies to raise money and keep things going, and so now, before I could take my property, my report in,
Hmm.
give them a convincing sale, and say, this looks good. You could put some money into it. I go to a big company with it, they say, well, no, we don't want to talk to you unless you can prove to us you got 1,000,000 ounces of gold.
Oh, I see. I see.
Well, I can't prove I got 1,000,000.
No. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. But
So,
the junior companies would.
yes,
They're willing to take more risks.
yes,
I
they're
see.
willing to take the risk and get it to the 1,000,000 ounces. But there's a lot fewer active junior companies.
Right.
Just the way the it's like any business. The bigger outfits tend to eat up the little
Yeah.
outfits and then make it difficult for little outfits to make a living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes total sense. Um, so what were some of the claims that you participated in the exploration that then developed in stages of production?
Uh, well, it depends how you count them.
Sure.
From a prospector's point of view, I find mineral occurrences or showings.
Yeah.
Okay. Then, if the showing gets worked on, that's a step one.
Mm-hmm.
If they drill it, that's sort of step two. If the company thinks there's enough there and they start putting drill holes in it, that's good. If they go underground on it, that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And if it turns into a mine, that's the top. The chances of a prospector finding a mine are pretty small,
Right.
But I have found things they've certainly been drilled, and a couple of them they've gone underground on.
Right.
And while it's not a mine now, who knows 20 years from now?
That's true. That's true.
Because price of gold's gone up.
Yeah.
The infrastructure's getting better.
Yeah.
The economics of the whole thing. So a showing up at, say, Gordon Lake that they said, no, it's not rich enough for us to mine now. 20 years later, it might be.
Mm.
40 years later, even more so. It's sort of
I see.
it's a gradational thing.
I see.
But I was fairly good at finding things. That was
Right. How is the staking process changed since you started?
it started out that you could only stake a claim 1,500 feet by 1,500 feet.
Right.
And originally, you could only stake 8 and then 16 of those on a claim sheet. And then they decided, okay, you can stake as many as you want. And then they brought in bigger claims where I could take 50 of those little squares and put them in one big claim.
Mm.
Okay?
Okay.
So now you're staking up a much bigger section of land and I only have to do the outside boundary.
Yeah.
So it's a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah.
But a small claim I can stake in a day.
Okay.
Just me going out there with an axe.
Mm-hmm.
A big claim, it might take you 3-4 days to get it staked.
Right.
In all that time, someone could fly in with a helicopter and stake.
Yeah, just drop one.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's all these moves favor the big operators.
Yeah, I see.
And now they're switching to map staking.
Oh,
That's
so
you just get on a computer and say, I want this piece of ground.
wow.
And several of the provinces and the territories are thinking about it. They're going to map staking.
Mm.
That again favors the big guy and hurts the little guy.
Mm. Interesting.
And that's just a general rule of thumb of all the rules and regulations. When they come in, they favor the bigger companies.
Right.
They penalize the junior.
Right. That makes sense. What's the longest you ever spent out in the bush?
6 months.
6 months.
Yep.
That's quite a while.
Yep. But I didn't have a wife then, and I was
Yeah, I see.
younger, and it was easy enough to do.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's some of the prospectors I know, they'll set a time limit.
Mm.
And before, when we were out working in the bush, you worked every day.
Right.
There weren't holidays, or there weren't.
No.
That's come in now that you can only spend so many days in the bush before you have to come out.
Oh, I see.
That's a labor rule. So that's changed a bit.
Mm.
Before, the only days we got off is when the weather was
Right.
too god awful to work.
Right. How when you know had a mineral showing that was fairly good and you thought some companies would be interested, how quickly would they jump on you right away and want to get in there, or was there what
That depends.
Right.
Minerals are cyclical.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So, what is it you found?
Right.
Is it a hot commodity right now, or is it something that? So, we just had a lithium rush a little while ago,
Mm-hmm.
where if you had a lithium property, you could get rid of it in days.
Mm.
If you had a base metal property, nah.
Mm.
And because there's so little work going on, it's hard to find a company who's interested in an area.
Right.
Because you're most likely to option your property to someone who's already working in the area.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So if there's a company exploring for gold and I have a gold property, there's my number one target who
Mm-hmm.
might be interested in my property. The guys who are looking for base metals, we don't want gold, we're looking for base metals.
Right.
So you sort of cherry pick the people who are in that commodity and people who are familiar with your area,
Mm.
depending on how good your property is and what its selling points are.
That makes a lot of sense. What were your relationships with indigenous communities in governments?
I worked with lots of
Oh, yeah.
indigenous guys out in the bush.
Oh yeah.
They were usually bushworkers.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a sort of a little definition between bushworker and prospector.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, the bushworkers do the physical work and they're the line cutters, building camps.
Mm-hmm.
They're not great prospectors, most of them, because they haven't learned enough geology, and some of them are good, they pick it up, others not. Because the prospector prospecting is a separate
Yeah.
skill as bushworkers. But a lot of the claim stakers, bushworkers, a few of the prospectors were indigenous.
Right.
And once you get out in the bush, most of the camps I were in were everybody's the same.
Right.
You know, you're out there, you're together, you're
Yeah.
like sort of like a family. You're
Yeah.
depend on one another.
For sure.
So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Um, were there ever issues with like land settlements or things like that that came up? Maybe when you're trying to sell a property or something.
yeah.
Yeah.
They but that's for the company to work on.
I
I
see.
don't
Yeah. Yeah.
deal with that. But from a prospector's point of view, they started putting stupid things in like you stake a claim, you have to go talk to the indigenous community
Mm.
in the land claim. But they don't know anything about mining. And if I'm telling them everything is in my property, uh, that's not the way we work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they hindered things
Mm.
because if I go in and I said to the guy, "Oh, I got a really hot gold property," next thing I know is going to be staked around it.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. I see. That
there's
makes sense.
there's problems there. Companies won't do that, but individuals will.
Right. Would that happen a lot? Sneaky stuff.
Not too much, but if an area gets hot and someone starts staking claims, the yep, the people come up just to stake ground around it
Mm.
because you never know where the ore body is.
Yeah. That's true.
You know.
That's true.
And if I find a trend of something that's really good, I can't stake it all up. I can only cover so much ground
Yeah.
as an individual or as a
Right.
small company. So then the big companies come in and there's a staking rush on.
Yeah. I see. I see. And again, favors the big
It
companies.
favors the bigger companies.
Yeah. How has the technology of exploration changed throughout the years? Is it more or less the same game as it always was, or
Well, so I'm old school. So,
I see?
uh, but for the new guys, I mean GPSs.
Mm.
Uh, the old way of doing it was you worked at not getting lost. You
Yeah.
know, that was always a consideration of what you're doing. The GPSs, you pray to God your batteries don't fail.
That's true. That's true.
But it's the same with the pilots. The pilots who learned how to fly before GPSs came in were much better than
Mm.
the guys who have to rely on the GPS.
Right.
The GPSs, satellite phones,
Oh yeah.
they impressed the hell out of me that I could sit anywhere out in the bush and make a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Because before we used to talk on shortwave radio,
Right.
you'd get through sometimes and other times you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Now most guys won't go to a camp unless there's satellite dishes,
Mm.
GPSs, internet. That's become
I see.
the modern. I get a camp like that and I say, I'm out of here. I don't want to watch
Yeah.
TV.
Yeah. Back massage chair.
You know, so that's changing the workplace considerably,
Okay. So,
and what the workers expect has gone up considerably. Yeah.
I see. I think the has the size of like the number of workers at a given camp changed over the years at all? Do you think?
Yeah,
Bigger, smaller?
the people like myself and that who go by themselves or small group,
Yeah.
you don't see that much anymore.
No, right?
It's now 20-man camps with a helicopter
Oh, really?
and a cook and a shower and a satellite dish.
When did that start changing? Was that when the
With
big
the
companies
uranium
started
guys
doing it? The uranium? Yeah.
started coming because they could afford that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The junior companies couldn't afford a 40-man camp or
Yeah.
20-man camp.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
see.
It was. We had Gold Terra was doing some work out of town here,
Oh yeah.
and they were flying their guys out with helicopters
Right.
every day and picking them up,
Right.
bringing them back to town.
Wow.
We used to go out and set up a little tent with two people and
Yeah.
do the work out in the field.
Wow. Was there a lot of competition back in the day?
competition.
Yeah, between prospectors.
Prospectors generally get along.
Okay.
We keep stuff to ourselves to a certain extent because you don't want
Of
everybody
course.
to know what you got. But most prospectors get along with each other, and the same when the diamond rushes and everything else were going on. A lot of things that would have ended up as claim disputes in court were settled out in the field.
Right. I
The
see.
two guys got together and said, let's get serious. All we're going to do is waste a bunch of money if we
Yeah.
contest. So we'll figure out a way to divide the ground up.
Right.
So the guys who are in the business, who know the business, usually get along fairly good.
Right.
It's the hot shots and the company guys that
Mm.
you have problems with.
That makes sense. Makes sense. Did you ever interact with any of the union people in town or on the mines or anything? Like when there be disputes or anything or?
I know some of them. But the smaller mines weren't unionized,
Yeah.
and the exploration was never unionized.
Yeah.
So we'd run across union workers at the mines in town, the bigger mines or the really big projects.
Right.
So I knew some of them, yeah.
Yeah.
When the strike was on in Yellowknife, I certainly
Oh yeah.
knew that
Yeah. Of course.
because I knew management guys really well and I knew workers really well.
Right. Right. Yeah. Do you feel like that strike has? It seems like everybody I talk to, as soon as I mention unions, it's the first thing they talk about.
They talk about,
The giant strike.
yep, the giant strike was both companies had had strikes in the past, but they were sort of like summer holidays.
Right.
They weren't taken all that
Yeah. I
seriously.
see. I see.
The giant strike, for a number of reasons, became much more serious and emotional than any of the other strikes I had seen.
Right. And what do you think that is?
Peggy Woody, for one,
For sure.
she was very headstrong and was making changes, and she wasn't listening to the workers at all.
Right.
And then when the strike got going, they brought in scab labor,
Yeah.
and scab labor is always a problem.
Mm.
And I knew the fellow who set off the explosion. I used to have coffee with him in the miners' mess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's a nice enough guy. But it was his problem was he'd worked at the mines for a number of years. He planned to keep working until his retirement.
Mm.
This was going to throw everything into, he was going to have to move.
Oh, the strike, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Because he was at an age where if you work for a company, you get a record and
Right.
they'll keep you on.
Right.
But with someone like Peggy Woody, she'd say, well, those bastards, when they come back to work, I'm firing a bunch of them.
Right.
And then he'd have to move
Right.
out of Yellowknife and find a job in another mine at 50 years old.
Mm. Oh man.
So it was emotional broke him.
Yeah. No kidding. Do you think that that strike has an effect on how people view unions in general in town?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it split a lot of hard feelings that are still around today
Yeah.
among those who are involved in it.
Yeah.
And I was out doing some prospecting out, so I was just going out for day jobs.
Mm.
Now I came into town, and one night I decided to go to Kentucky Fried Chicken
Oh yeah.
to get take home.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got muckers on. I've got a hard hat. I look like could be a miner.
Yeah.
And I see a couple guys elbowing at each other, and all of a sudden, about 10 minutes later, 4 guys walk in. And, okay. And one of the guys, oh, I know him, it's okay, and they all left. They thought I was one of the scab miners.
Was this during the strike?
Yeah, it was during the strike. But there was that tension in town.
Right. Wow.
You know,
Wow.
and I had nothing to do. Well, I was a prospector.
Yeah.
You know, but they just spotted me and thought, he's got muckers on. He's got. He looks like he might be a miner.
Oh my God.
So that sort of thing was
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, I see.
So it did. It did change the atmosphere in the town from we're all in this together. We were no longer all in this together.
Right.
We were in factions.
I see. I see. Yeah, that's interesting. So you've been here a long time, and you know the industry quite well. A lot of folks I talk to are pretty worried about the prospect of the diamond mines closing.
Mm-hmm. Which they should be.
Yeah. Do you have, and a lot of people are really, kind of a little bit hopeless about it. What do you see? Do you see any way that the economy of the territory can pivot or mitigate the disaster that's going to come?
The trouble is, we've got nothing to pivot to other than mining.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Gold Terra finds enough gold underneath the old con mine to open up. That would be great. So we were very lucky as the gold mines were closing, the diamond mines were opening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've had this period of time, and the government has been hindering exploration.
Mm.
And so they weren't looking to the future of, well, what are we going to do when the diamond mines close? We better get some more mines on stream, and to do that, you need the exploration.
Yeah.
And you need the grassroots exploration. Because I could take an old known deposit, like Gold Terra is doing, and they're drilling a whole bunch of holes in it to see if there's enough gold there to go. Or I could find a brand new deposit that no one's worked on before, and it could be a lot faster and a lot easier to finance. Because it's new, it's brand new. Oh my God, another El Bonanza.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so you think that's, one of the ways to get out of, total economic collapse here is explore, find something else to mine.
Yeah. And there's a land freeze on the North Slave area up here.
Right.
And that was supposed to be a temporary land freeze for 2 years. And then they extended it. It's been 20 years.
Wow.
And that's cost us millions of dollars in exploration. If they'd get rid of that land freeze, then exploration would pick up again.
And that's one of the ways the government is hindering exploration.
Sorry?
You mentioned earlier the government is hindering exploration.
Yes, that's one way. Is they put the land freeze in. It was only supposed to be in for 2 to 4 years. Why is it still in place now? There's a number of ways and things that the government has done that hinders exploration.
Right.
And they just don't see it, that's favoring the big companies. You're penalizing the little guys. It's the little guys that find things.
Yeah, totally. And why did they put the land freeze in initially?
It's part of the Acacho land claim thing.
Oh, I see.
They said, we don't want a bunch of development on our ground till we decide where our ground is.
Right.
Said, okay, well, we'll do it for a couple of years. But then it's 20 years on, and you haven't gone. If you say you're going to do it for 2 years, okay, 2 years it comes off.
Right. Interesting. Are there any other ways the government's hindering exploration?
The legislation, they've made it so difficult and slow to get permits and get anything done. It's ridiculous. And how we talked that Gold Terra, who was trying to get a permit to do some work,
The one at Con?
they have claims around
Right.
the town. They were trying to do some work at Walsh Lake, I think.
Yeah.
And the government was giving them grief because there was cottages in the area.
Oh, I see.
And one of the guys at the meeting said, "We've never had mining this close to Yellowknife before."
What?
That's the type of bureaucrat you're dealing with. There's two mines, and
Yeah, in the city.
yeah, of course there's been the work gone on all around here,
That's hilarious.
and that's the mentality
Right.
you're dealing with, and it just gets silly. You know, it's some of the stuff they've come up with, they've dreamt up. You just shake your head and say,
Yeah.
the land use permits. If I want to do work in a claim, I have to get a land use permit,
Right.
and then I have to follow by the land use permit. I had a territorial lands inspector tell me if I cut down one tree within the commissioner's land area, he'd have me arrested.
Whoa.
And I said, "You better go talk to the mining recorder, because I have to cut down trees
Yeah.
if I stake a claim."
Yeah.
So he did, and then he said, "Oh, okay." But that's the mentality you're fighting.
Yeah. Damn. How does that happen? I guess that's a.
You put people in charge who have no idea
Yeah.
what they're doing, or this guy had never staked a claim in his life. He had graduated from somewhere, and he got put in a position of power,
Yeah.
and he just started making up rules.
Yeah. What's the relationship like between the junior mining companies and the big mining companies? Will the big ones acquire them often, or will will they try to compete with them, or is there animosity?
Between the juniors and the
Yeah.
seniors, there's competition between them. The juniors can act really fast,
Yeah, of course.
and that's why they got the diamond mines.
Yeah, of course.
Something came up, and some of the big companies said, "Well, why aren't you guys involved in the diamonds?" "Oh, well, that's too steep of a learning curve."
Yeah.
Well, takes you a week in the
Yeah.
library,
Yeah, literally.
you know, to read up on it, and
Yeah.
then, but the big companies tend to be so myopic focused,
Right.
and it pisses me off that the Canadian big companies are the same way. They're very myopic, and they don't look at opportunities and how can we get things going.
Yeah.
And I had one property, and I had a fellow come out and wanted to see the property and take a look at it and everything. So I'm showing him around, and I said, "What do you think?" He said, "Well, it's good stuff." I said, "Well, do you think you guys would be interested?" He says, "Well, you know, the company I work for, Shell Canada, unless you can change the cash flow by 10 to 20%, we're not interested." You could have the richest gold mine in
Yeah.
Canada, and you're not going to change Shell Canada's
Yeah.
cash flow by 20%.
Oh my god.
You know, so with that attitude, they're,
Yeah, nothing's getting developed.
yeah.
Yeah.
But with the frontier, we can do it attitude in Canada is long gone.
Seems like it, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to, there's still a few seedier pantsers out there, but most of them are, and people would say to me, "Why are you wasting your time and money exploring your own ground?"
Mm.
I said, "Because I believe in it. I think
Right.
I can option this in time. I just need the right company to come along."
Yeah, I guess so. Well, that's all my questions, and I've been in about an hour. Um, but is there anything else you think I should know?
Well, some of the little small mines that used to
Yeah.
operate, I can remember they were sending a plane up to Terra Mine. There was 20 guys standing around waiting for the plane to come.
Mm.
I had permission to drive on the airport runway in those days, so I was delivering something that
Oh
they needed. And a cop car showed up.
yeah.
20 guys disappeared.
That's a Terra?
Yeah, they were going out to tear a mine.
Right.
Because guys with outstanding warrants could go to a mine, a great place to hide
Oh
out.
my god.
Or they thought, geez, what did I do last Saturday night when I was really drunk? And it was an interesting thing that at the mines, some of the remote mines, a lot of the guys, they weren't all bad people or anything, but a number of them had brush-ins with the law and didn't want to hear that a cop was coming.
Yeah, that's funny.
Because it just might be something to do with their divorce. They're not doing their alimony.
Oh yeah.
There's a number of things that a cop might be looking for them.
Right.
Yeah. One of the things that's always amazed me is a lot of the students and young people get hired for jobs out in the bush, or they don't get any training.
Mm.
And the companies don't have on-the-job training.
Right.
There's a real lack of getting knowledge and experience from the people that have it and passing it on to those that are. So we're reinventing the wheel every damn time.
Yeah.
And
yeah, totally.
and that's a real mistake that our society is making and companies are making. And I'm always getting calls from people with questions. They can't find the answer anywhere else, so they give me a call.
Right.
You know, and it might not be my area of expertise, but I know enough, and I'm a generalist.
Yeah.
I had we have a seismic station just out of town. They phoned me up and said, we're getting some really strange readings out of Fort Smith. We can't figure them out.
Yeah.
Is there any exploration going on there or explosions? I said, no, not that I know of. No one's working. I said, what? They asked, any ideas? Okay, I can give you one. When the river freezes over, okay, it's at a certain level. The ice freezes across. Then as the winter goes on, the river drops. And you get another freezing level.
Yeah.
And that collapses.
Right.
And makes a big boom.
Yeah.
That's what they were picking up.
Oh my god.
No, I'm not an expert in seismic, but I know a lot about the land.
Yeah.
And when they were saying, well, it would have to be a fairly big, widespread thing, and I just thought about it for a while. But the river does collapse like that.
Right. Wow.
You know? And that's where this knowledge and this information should be going on. And it's not just me. There's lots of guys. So the companies and the government and everything else should be more in tune with educating their employees.
Yeah.
The people who are in charge of something should be educated in that. As I always say in town here, if you want a city planner and you want to know how to lay out the roads and everything else, hire the snowplow operator. He can tell you what's wrong with the roads.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously. That's something I hear over and over again in all the interviews I'm doing is you know, the need for education around here, especially because
Yep.
I don't know, like people always talk about the reliance on like southern laborers coming in.
Southern expertise who don't know anything.
What's that?
Southern expertise who really don't know anything.
Yeah, seriously.
And we make the same mistake over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Because they just, which I rag against the engineers on this,
Yeah.
they get a little tired of me telling them, but you're making the same mistake over and over and over again.
Yeah.
We got to learn,
Yeah.
you know, from past things that are going on. We've got between giant, between the mines and town, there's probably 20 shafts
Right.
going down.
Right.
They go down, they go through the permafrost layer, and then the deeper you go, the warmer it gets. We've got 20 shafts down to warm air.
Mm.
Nobody's using it.
Mm.
And you say that to them, they just look at you, well, you're crazy. No, it's called geothermal heat.
Yeah, come on.
You know, we've got them. The
Yeah.
shafts are there.
Yeah.
They just don't think
Right.
at all about those sort of things. What do we do here? We build high-rise buildings, 10, 15 stories high, in the Arctic wind.
Yeah.
You tell me that's efficient to heat?
Yeah, I'm thinking about this situation you got here too.
Yeah.
This must have been a guy from Edmonton that built the place.
Yeah, it's, and as I say, it's, it baffles me that, and particularly when you're training people to go out in the field
Mm.
or to do things, give them some training for God's
Yeah,
sakes.
seriously.
You know, and teach them about the wildlife, teach them about,
Right.
you know, what they're getting themselves into and how to do things. And they don't. They, they just they just refuse to even acknowledge it or accept that there might be something to it.
Right.
You know, and you can drive around the city and imagine yourself as a snowplow operator, and there's just some absolutely idiotic things they did that just makes plowing the roads much harder than
Oh,
it should
yeah,
be.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm a firm believer in. Have you ever heard of Frontier College?
I think so. It's
Okay,
familiar.
that was during the Great Depression.
Okay.
Okay, and they had work camps for people.
Yeah.
And the union, pretty sure it was union driven, said, we've got these guys in camps, let's educate them.
Mm.
Let's teach them how to read and write. Let's teach them how to do basic mathematics. We'll take an out-of-work school teacher and put him out there as a after-work school teacher for them.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great idea,
Yeah. Wow.
you know, and we've done away with that.
Yeah.
And that was during the Great Depression, and when I read about it, I thought, God, somebody was thinking.
Yeah. No kidding.
For once, someone was
no
actually thinking. Teach people to do things, to read and write, to,
Yeah. Wow.
you know, give them a leg up.
Oh, that's interesting. And that was around here.
It was all over Canada.
Right.
And it was the work camps that the government was afraid they were going to have a rebellion on their hands
Mm-hmm.
from unemployed workers, so they put them in these work camps doing
Anything.
sort of make work projects.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
cutting lines or putting in roads and things.
Yeah. Exactly.
But somebody in the union said, when you got 200 people out in a work camp, why aren't we educating them
Yeah.
at the
Seriously.
same time? Teaching them how to read, teach it, because in those days, a lot of people couldn't read and write and
Yeah.
do basic math,
Yeah.
and they still can't.
Yeah. I see. Yeah.
You know, and that's the sort of thing of, you know, when Trudeau said we're going to bring 1 million immigrants in and they'll blend in with the
Mm.
culture.
Mm.
Well, what did they actually do to help them blend in?
Yeah.
Next to nothing.
Nothing.
And so there's room for this sort of teaching people
Right.
and educating people and getting them to blend in.
Yeah.
There were, I like the old idea. It used to be in a small town, or Yellowknife, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
You know, so we have to help each other because
Mhm.
if your car gets stuck, I'm going to help push you
Of
because
course.
it may be my car that gets stuck next.
Yeah.
That's the help one another, we're all in this together attitude,
Right.
which as the place gets bigger, you lose.
Mm. I see.
Rather than reinforce that, you lose it. And As I say, some of these guys really don't put someone in charge of medicine if they don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to put them in that position, get them educated real quick. Because often a person who's trained or knows it will try to tell a superior, no, we can't do it that way.
Right.
We should do it this way. And the person say, no, we're doing it my way. And then when it doesn't work, they may change their attitude.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to, and we're not, you need the old timers around because that's where you learn all your stuff from.
Totally.
When I started working in the bush, at night the guys would sit around and talk and tell stories and everything else. But the stories usually had a reason. They taught you how to deal with a bear. They taught you how to do this. They taught you not to do that. You get rid of the old timers, you don't get those, and everybody's on their own electronic gadget. You don't get the stories, you don't get that knowledge passed on.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So what do you think we do about that? I mean, how do we keep that? How do we pass that knowledge on and make sure it doesn't get lost?
There's a couple ways of doing it. One is, I would say in most jobs in that you have an educational aspect to it.
Yeah.
A couple hours a week, we'll pay you to go to class and learn things. And we'll hire people who come out to talk to you. They might just be telling you stories, but there's a reason behind those stories of what to do. And the people start talking, and oh yeah, this is how you do it, or this is what not to do. We're gonna have to shift our rather than send everybody off to university, we could start having university classes right here.
Yeah.
Get people more involved in a group effort. If you get a chance, you should. Have you visited the museum?
Oh yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was individuals, a group of us,
Yeah.
who said the city needs a museum.
Yeah, and you just
Well,
made it
damn
happen.
well going to build them one. And now there's another group who's thinking about an art gallery,
Oh wow.
and these are privately organized. The ski club was a group of people who said we need a cross-country ski club.
Really?
The gymnastic club was a group of people who said we need a gymnastic club up here. It's not government,
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
because if the government got involved, it would cost 10 times as much.
Yeah, for sure.
It would take 10 times as long,
For sure.
and it would be screwed up.
Yeah, totally. That's really interesting. Yeah, can you tell me a bit about the museum and how that came to be? It's kind of recent it opened, right?
Yeah, and I was the president of the society for
Right.
quite a long time. It started out with a fellow named Eric Watt who formed a group called Spirit YK,
Okay.
which stood for the Society for the Preservation of the Indomitable Something Rollicking Spirit of Yellowknife.
That's awesome.
And what it was, well, we can put some displays up to remember mining, and we started doing a few little things around town. The 2 mines were shutting down.
Giant
Okay.
farm. Yeah.
And so a little committee formed with our saying, this is a golden opportunity, or a once in a lifetime opportunity to salvage a bunch of stuff from the mines.
Yeah.
So the government was involved, the Prince of Wales Heritage Center, ourselves, Spirit YK, and everything else. And we started collecting stuff at the mines.
Oh right.
And I knew the mine manager at Giant, so I bought a couple buildings off of him
Yeah.
for $1.
Yeah. That's what Pam said.
Yeah.
It's $1.
And so we could have some place to store the stuff we're salvaging. And then, well, we got to do something with all the stuff we're salvaging. We'll do an outdoor display, and we'll build a little museum. So then we formed the Heritage Society, and it sort of swallowed up Spirit YK because Eric Watt had passed away.
Right.
And we had this vision of doing the museum. And we just kept plugging away at it. And because of the government remediation, we couldn't do anything for a number of years.
Oh, I see.
And I said, well, we got to keep the society alive. We've got the outdoor display we can work on. We'll do the beer barge, an annual beer barge fundraiser.
Mm.
We'll keep our plugging away at it until the remediation's over and we can renovate the building.
Mm.
So that's what we did.
Wow.
And we had a group that stayed with it and kept going.
Yeah, that's awesome. It was really impressive in there.
Yeah.
Especially because it was so, I don't know, couple friends who.
A group of people.
Okay, yeah.
We managed to keep the thing, but then I was gone through cancer, medical problems. I was in my 70s, and I said, I can't run this anymore.
Yeah.
It's just too much day-to-day stuff. So Helmut Epp took over for the construction phase of it,
Right.
renovations.
Right.
So we'll see if we can keep it going now is the thing.
Oh yeah.
But that's where you get a group of people who say, we can let's try this. We can do this.
Yeah.
And if they put roadblocks up, we'll just figure out a way around the
Yeah.
damn roadblock,
Yeah.
or through it, or you know, it's you have to be dedicated and say this is worth doing.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah.
Are there any books you could recommend about the history of mining
The history of mining, Ryan Silk knows
Oh yeah.
backwards and forwards.
Yeah. Oh my God. I read his operational history. It
Yeah.
was crazy detailed.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
There's a few old timers around who would
Yeah.
remember the strike and various
Of course.
things.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to get into that though.
Yeah. Yeah. It's honestly, I'm not focusing in this paper. At least, I'm not focusing on it too much. It's
Yeah.
a lot of people written about it.
And the union, the big one up here is the government.
Yeah. Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
And other groups have tried to form unions but not succeeded.
Could you tell me a bit about?
Well, a couple of the fast food places.
Oh yeah.
They,
Yeah.
but it's so easy to get rid of one or two people.
Yeah. Of course. The
You
smaller
know,
places. Yeah.
in exploration, there was never enough of us in one place to. You'd either sort your problems out on your own,
Right.
or there's never. And I don't know what a union would do for you.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely examples of that sort of like contract-based
Mm-hmm.
work that like with electricians and things like that.
Yeah.
They're more.
And you have your professional unions
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
who are more interested in protecting themselves from the public than protecting the
Yeah.
public
Yeah.
from their members.
Yeah. It's too bad.
That's my read of it.
I definitely agree with that.
And they're a pretty cozy little group of.
No kidding, eh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. And the government union there. I used to work for them doing organizing in Ontario, so they put me up in an office there, and I was talking to a lot of the folks. But they actually rep one of the mines. It seems, which is interesting. Acadie, they've got them. I guess it's just the big union in town. That's who.
Yeah.
That's who they went with. But back in the from what I've been reading, at least back in the 50s and 60s, it was a whole different scene. They're really more independent unions are forming.
Yeah.
They had just such like a strong culture.
And that's people looking after themselves,
Yeah.
which rather than going to someone else and asking them to look after you, which
Right.
is, and none of the employers up here have enough people to really. They have their trades and their
Oh, of course.
different groups. That's
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But it seemed like the same thing happened, like what you were talking about with the companies, with like the smaller and the more like real strong unions were taken over by the big ones.
Yeah.
Steelworkers came in, took over my mill, and all the other little
Yep.
guys.
that's unfortunately the living organisms live by taking over other living organisms.
Yeah.
And it's the same with unions. The
Yeah.
bigger union will
Totally.
gobble up the little unions.
Totally.
And the little union can run for a number of years, but then their guys retire. The guys who
Yeah.
are really,
Yeah, exactly.
who can remember what it was like before they had a union.
Yes, of course. Of course.
You know,
That's the big thing.
yeah,
Is people forget what, you know, we have to go through to
that's right.
get that set up, and how much power you, like the change in power that you have.
That's right.
Yeah, people just get cozy, and then they end up with like an apathetic
Hmm.
group where, like, we
Yeah.
think it's an insurance company or something.
And in the bush, a couple of times I've had a higher up or a boss that's asked me to do something, and I said, I'm not doing it.
Mhm.
I said, well, I could fire you. I said, fine, I could quit.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing it, and I'm not going to let anybody else in camp do it because
Yeah.
it's dangerous.
Yeah,
So you've
That's
got a
true.
choice.
that's true. Yeah, you have a lot more leverage on your own
Yeah,
when you got a small group like that, for sure.
yeah. And because I have lots of experience, people would listen to me,
Yeah.
except for the boss.
Yeah, of course.
But then when I just flat out said no, and the one time I said, I'm going out and taking the keys out of the skidoos. You're not sending anybody out in a skidoo today. That's it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
We didn't get along really well.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Um, was I'm really interested in your art as well. I saw a couple paintings. I think I saw this one up in the museum.
Yep.
It was a
Print of it.
It was a print of it, yeah. Did you do the Gold Range one as well?
Yep.
Oh,
I did
yeah.
all those ones.
Oh, you did all of them out.
I've got a website, just
Okay.
www.walthumphries.ca
Oh,
or
right on.
.com, because I've done hundreds of paintings. So.
Yeah.
That's where, when I had this guidance counselor in school, she couldn't understand my point of view. I said, I'm doing more than one thing.
Yeah.
I want a job that's interesting, challenging, mentally and physically and outdoors,
Yeah.
but I also want to paint and write.
Yeah.
And she said, well, you got to focus.
Yeah.
I said, I am focused.
But
I don't see the reason why you can't be a professional painter. You can't be a professional. You can be whatever you want to be.
yeah.
You just have to say, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm also dyslexic.
Oh, I see.
Okay. So I had a lot of hurdles in school, but it taught me perseverance
Yeah, totally.
and figure out ways around things.
Totally.
You know, so one of my ways around dyslexic was I knew I would lose 10 marks off of every exam I wrote right away.
Right.
Just
Right.
that was given.
Yeah.
So I had a 10% handicap. So I had to know 10% more
Yeah.
to make up for that handicap.
I
That's
think,
the other thing is we don't focus on people's talents because a lot of people have gifts
yeah,
that just aren't being used.
I do really believe that. I think that's more or less all my questions. But I'd like to know, how's the gold range changed throughout the years?
It used to be like one great big party.
Yeah.
You'd walk in there and you knew it was a small town. It was
Yeah, of
3,000 to 4,000 people when I
Yeah.
moved up here. You'd know a lot of the people.
Yeah.
You'd know the people from the communities who came in,
Mhm.
and everybody would just have a party.
Yeah.
You know, singing and dancing and carrying on. And there was no TV, or there was only 3 hours of TV a day.
Yeah.
It was canned stuff. It was terrible.
Yeah.
There was no electronic devices.
Right.
So people would go there on a Friday or Saturday night to have a party.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the claim stakers, it was back when we were in our 30s and 40s, and he said, yeah, I go to the Gold Range 2 or 3 times before I go out to the bush to get in shape. You know, because you've been sitting around for
Yeah.
a month without a job, all of a sudden you got a job,
Yeah.
you want to get in shape, well, dancing at the Gold Range
Oh,
is as
that's
good
awesome.
as anything else. So it was and there used to be two bars, the Gold Range and the Trap Line, and people would be going
Oh,
between the
I
two.
see.
It was like two different parties going on.
Right.
People mingling between the two.
Oh yeah.
So it was, and there weren't many fights, and if there were fights, there were usually two guys who knew each other who went in the back alley to.
Right.
It was just that was the party in town
Yeah.
because nobody had a house big enough to have a party.
Right. I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So they'd just go down. You'd go in the Gold Range. The bush crews would come in. A lot of them. That's where they'd get paid.
Right.
You know, the guy would come in who had hired them with a stack of money and pay them off, and so they had lots of money and lots of parties.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
And it was a very friendly. You could talk to anybody. You could.
Mm.
You know, it was much more community oriented town in those days.
I see. Yeah.
And the people, as I say, you had sort of had this attitude: we're in this together. We'll
Yeah.
make the most of it.
Yeah. Totally.
Of course, we had the usual number of alcoholics, but Yellowknife was a much kinder, nicer town back then,
Mm.
and much friendlier.
Mm.
And most small towns were.
Right.
When electronic devices came in, television included,
Yeah.
you could see the community wellness and get together, and it would go down in the isolation and
Mm.
discontent, and everything would go up.
Right. I see.
Yeah.
That's bad. Okay. Well, I think that's all. Thanks so much for sitting down with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Could I just get your name and
Yeah, of course.
email in case? Did I give you a card?
Yes, please. I got a consent form as well.
Oh, okay. It's just so that if you come across any questions,
Oh yeah, for sure.
what you might.
I'm sure I will. Yeah. Well, I've got your email and your phone number, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Oddly enough, a lot of the people I know up here are people who do more than one thing.
That seems to be pretty common. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason they came up here, is where you can
Yeah.
do that.
I got a working pen. There we go. Keeled over there.
Tricky furniture.
I got a pen. Always have to.
Do I have to read this, or do I can I
Yeah.
sign it?
And there's a thing that says something about an incentive. I'm actually not doing those, but so just ignore that part.
Which part?
It's number